Italy, country shaped like a boot. Italy, a country of south-central Europe, occupying a peninsula that juts deep into the Mediterranean Sea. Italy comprises some of the most varied and scenic landscapes on Earth and is often described as a country shaped like a boot. At its broad top stand the Alps, which are among the world's most rugged mountains. Italy's highest points are along with Monte Rosa, which peaks in Switzerland, and Mont Blanc, which peaks in France. The Western Alps overlook a landscape of alpine lakes and glacier-carved valleys that stretch down to the Po River and Piedmont. Tuscany, to the south of the cisalpine region, is perhaps the country's best-known region. From the Central Alps, running down the length of the country radiates the tall Apennine Range, which widens near Rome to cover nearly the entire width of the Italian peninsula. South of Rome the Apennines narrow and are flanked by two wide coastal plains, one facing the Tyrrhenian Sea and the other the Adriatic Sea. Much of the lower Apennine chain is near wilderness, hosting a wide range of species rarely seen elsewhere in Western Europe, such as wild boars, wolves, asps, and bears. The southern Apennines are also tectonically unstable, with several active volcanoes, including Vesuvius, which from time to time belches ash and steam into the air above Naples and its island-strewn bay. At the bottom of the country, in the Mediterranean Sea, lie the islands of Sicily and Sardinia. Italy's political geography has been conditioned by this rugged landscape. With few direct roads between them, and with the passage from one point to another traditionally difficult, Italy's towns and cities have a history of self-sufficiency, independence, and mutual mistrust. Visitors today remark on how unlike one town is from the next, on the marked differences in cuisine and dialect, and on the many subtle divergences that make Italy seem less a single nation than a collection of culturally related points in an uncommonly pleasing setting. Across a span of more than 3,000 years, Italian history has been marked by episodes of temporary unification and long separation, of intercommunal strife and failed empires. At peace for more than half a century now, Italy's inhabitants enjoy a high standard of living and a highly developed culture. Though its archaeological record stretches back tens of thousands of years, Italian history begins with the Etruscans, an ancient civilization that rose between the Arno and Tiber rivers. The Etruscans were supplanted in the 3rd century BCE by the Romans, who soon became the chief power in the Mediterranean world and whose empire stretched from India to Scotland by the 2nd century CE. That empire was rarely secure, not only because of the unwillingness of conquered peoples to stay conquered but also because of power struggles between competing Roman political factions, military leaders, families, ethnic groups, and religions. The Roman Empire fell in the 5th century CE after a succession of barbarian invasions through which Huns, Lombards, Ostrogoths, and Franks, mostly previous subjects of Rome, seized portions of Italy. Rule devolved to the level of the city-state, although the Normans succeeded in establishing a Mahdist empire in southern Italy and Sicily in the 11th century. Many of those city-states flourished during the Renaissance era, a time marked by significant intellectual, artistic, and technological advances but also by savage warfare between states loyal to the Pope and those loyal to the Holy Roman Empire. Italian unification came in the 19th century when a liberal revolution installed Victor Emmanuel II as king. In World War I, Italy fought on the side of the Allies, but, under the rule of the fascist leader Benito Mussolini, it waged war against the Allied powers in World War II. From the end of World War II to the early 1990s, Italy had a multi-party system dominated by two large parties, the Christian Democratic Party, Partito della Democrazia Cristiana, DC, and the Italian Communist Party, Partito Comunista Italiano, PCI. In the early 1990s, the Italian party system underwent a radical transformation, and the political center collapsed, leaving a right-left polarization of the party spectrum that threw the north-south divide into sharper contrast and gave rise to such political leaders as media magnate Silvio Berlusconi. The whole country is relatively prosperous, certainly compared with the early 20th century, when the economy was predominantly agricultural. Much of that prosperity has to do with tourism, for in good years nearly as many visitors as citizens can be found in the country. Italy is part of the European Union and the Council of Europe, and, with its strategic geographic position on the southern flank of Europe, it has played a fairly important role in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. The capital is Rome, one of the oldest of the world's great cities and a favorite of visitors, who go there to see its great monuments and works of art as well as to enjoy the city's famed dolce vita, or sweet life. Other major cities include Milan's industrial and fashion center, Genoa, a handsome port on the Ligurian Gulf, the sprawling southern metropolis of Naples, and Venice, one of the world's oldest tourist destinations. Surrounded by Rome is an independent state, Vatican City, which is the seat of the Roman Catholic Church and the spiritual home of Italy's overwhelmingly Catholic population. Humans' intellectual and moral faculties have found a welcome home in Italy, one of the world's most important centers of religion, visual arts, literature, music, philosophy, culinary arts, and sciences. Michelangelo, the painter and sculptor, believed that his work was to free an already existing image. Giuseppe Verdi heard the voices of the ancients and of angels in music that came to him in his dreams. Dante forged a new language with his incomparable poems of heaven, hell, and the world between. Those and many other Italian artists, writers, designers, musicians, chefs, actors, and filmmakers have brought extraordinary gifts to the world.